Just say Amanda Hug and Kiss.
Hug and kiss.
No,
What?
say the full name.
Amanda Hug and kiss. What?
Amanda Hug and Kiss.
Amanda Hug and kiss. Like, what's the pun? What's like what's the innuendo that I'm missing? Because it's always innuendos with you hug and kiss. But like what?
A man.
A man to hug and
To
kiss.
hug and
Oh, sure. Well, that's just Tuesday for me.
But for me, it was Tuesday.
Hey,
Hey,
that's
nice.
a video game
That was
movie
great.
quote. What does he say? He's like, I killed all those people. M. Bison from
Oh, really?
Street Fighter.
I didn't even know that was a.
Holy crap! You didn't realize that you were just quoting a video game movie?
No, I didn't realize.
Hey everyone, welcome to the show. I'm Michael Piscineri, joined by Denise Chen and Martin Jung, and today we're talking about video game adaptations.
Wahoo!
Wahoo!
Wahoo.
Well, much like your wahoo just then, it's very similar to video game adaptations in that they're always worse than what they should be.
We were the original video games with a wahoo energy, and then the movie's just wahoo.
And then you've got Uwe Boll, who directs every freaking video game movie. How does that guy direct so many bad movies? UWE Boll, however you say his name. Uwe Boll, U-Dog. U-Dog, he directed numerous video game movies that you should stay away from.
One of which we watched.
we watched, and you can find that video on my YouTube channel.
All I remember is a really nice sink
Yes.
filling up. We just
still
wanted to
filling
cut
up.
back
Yeah.
to that sink.
Alone in the Dark, you got people with machine guns in a very crowded place where there's light. It totally goes against Alone in the Dark and what that means. Alone in the Dark, it rebooted as a survival horror, but the point was it was meant to be a scary, suspenseful game, and this movie did not even kind of follow the normal rules of filmmaking. And we got Alone in the Dark, which is to this day the worst rated video game movie of all time.
So, like, where does this contrast come from where, like, the video games actually are quite good video games, but then the movie adaptations are, like, the complete 180 of it? Like,
Well, I
where's that trend? What's getting lost in translation?
I think that, well, I mean, like every video game movie has to be based on a good video game because otherwise it's like
To
there's-
get greenlit.
to get
Yeah.
greenlit, it needs to be a game that people like to play. I think what's happening is you've got studio executives that don't play video games trying to adapt and interpret and make money off something that they don't understand. Well, I mean, like Uncharted. Did you watch Uncharted?
No, I don't plan to.
I don't want to.
Okay,
You
Uncharted.
You have?
I watched it in the cinemas. I
Oh.
reviewed it for the podcast.
You poor soul. You poor soul.
You can listen to that full podcast. It was not a fun movie. It was very groan-inducing. It felt like a big cash grab. For all the good faith that Sony had built with me from Spider-Man into the Spider-Verse, they lost all of it with that movie. The funny thing, though, is Uncharted are fun, story-driven games with big action set pieces. And here you had a movie that was stealing parts from each game rather than just having one coherent storyline from one of the games. Like, all Uncharted had to be was the same story as the first Uncharted game, and it would have been fine. Then you could have made the sequel the exact same as Uncharted 2. You save a ton of money from writing credits because you're just using the game as the blueprint. Instead, we got this movie where there's a plot twist about a bad guy. This person's the bad guy. It's very badly miscast. Like, Mark Wahlberg should not have been cast as Sully. That movie is
No,
a
Tom
perfect
Holland, no.
example of studios thinking they know what makes the game work and totally missing the point. Yeah, you got to feel like these movies were made by a gamer who played the games and experienced all those special moments that
Exactly.
that made you fall in love with it. And the story in the fourth game is fantastic. Like, I love the story in the fourth game. I was playing the game in front of my partner, and she was like, "Wait a sec, this is a fucking game? I thought this was a movie that you were watching."
It wasn't until sort of video games took on more conventional Hollywood sort of 3-act structure storytelling, incorporating cinematic techniques and focusing on dialogue and writing, hero's journey, inciting incident, that Hollywood sort of took video game stories more seriously. Because we're talking about a medium that started off where the ending of a game was just a black screen with white text saying congratulations, thank you for saving me from my slumber or something. And also too, the audience matured, and so has the stories that were being told, from just like rescuing damsels in distress to Last of Us.
Plus you can't have a damsel being a damsel in distress in 2023. That's just not.
And how many times can you
That's
retell
just
that
not
story,
progressive. Yeah, like all the
So, what
basics
else?
Yeah.
of storytelling
Yeah.
should be there. We shouldn't lose sight of those things
Yes.
just because it's a movie based on a video game. Just bring
Yeah.
what already
Yeah.
works for films to a film that's based on a video game. I think as well, a video game can be fun and have a story. We know plenty of video games that have terrible stories, but they're really fun to play. A movie with a story, completely different. Just
Yes.
like with book adaptations, people get the when the movie doesn't follow the book.
Yeah.
It's the same with the
And
video
they
games.
never change. It's funny because like I read so many YouTube comments, right, of people when they're unhappy about something, like say Halo, for example, the new Halo TV show, and all the comments are like, oh, if they just literally adapted what was in the cutscenes or the dialogue that you're playing through, all the stuff you play through, like we'd be so happy, because that on its own is already so great and enough. And it seems like studios are always feeling like, oh, it's not enough. We need to add this and this and this and cater to the times and the political sentiment. And
They also don't know source material.
yeah,
They don't research source material.
Yes.
that's right.
I mean, UA Bowl, U-Bowl clearly doesn't.
Ooh, boy.
But interestingly, the fans are pretty much saying to them, just copy and paste. And we're happy with that.
Exactly.
You could just copy and paste the story. We'll pay again to hear the same story, but as a real life adaptation. Isn't that fascinating? Like,
Right.
this audience wants the easiest thing for Hollywood to produce and make. Just translate it to real life.
Obviously, it's not as
Or
easy as
maybe
pressing a button
animated.
and then you can translate. Of course,
No.
you have to adapt to an actual. You have to adapt to the format of a
Yeah.
of a movie, because the audience psychology is different. I get that, but it's just like, they try to do too much, or they don't know enough at all about the source material, and then the translation process.
Like, if you
It gets screwed up.
If you
Yeah,
made
that's right.
if you made a Mario Brothers movie and the Mario Brothers aren't plumbers, well, what the why aren't they plumbers? Why wouldn't you? It's such a simple detail, but it takes people out of like the film, because then they say to themselves, "This is not it." It's like if you made a Harry Potter movie and Harry Potter's not a wizard, well, people are going to be kind of pissed off because they're going to say to themselves, "Why?" If the books are all about him being a wizard.
When you stick to the story, but not just that, you expand on what's already been established, that is when you cater not just to existing fans, but new fans as well, because you're really fleshing out that universe. And I feel, a show like Arcane really works because, say, for people who aren't familiar with the lore, because when you play the game, unless you really dive into reading all the backstories and stuff, you don't
The
need to
fan
know
fiction
that. Yeah,
and all that
you don't
crap.
need to know all that to play the actual game, right? And it's a funny running joke that everything about League of Legends outside of the game itself is amazing. But the game is like dirty. So Arcane was like truly up here, and they expanded on these stories, and like you were given these histories and just all these details that I wasn't aware of for some of the characters that just made it so impactful and really clarified the characters' relationships with each other as well, and they had really like meaningful arcs. I think that's what really just elevated it all for me.
But notice how everything we're talking about here are gripping character pieces.
Exactly.
That is irrespective of video game mechanics, and that can be applied to just conventional Hollywood. I am a firm believer that every story should stand on its own merits, and it should not be reliant on external media, right? The story should be self-evident, it should be self-sufficient, and any sort of external media like tie-in graphic novels, mangas,
Should not
should
be factored in.
Yeah, should they? I was gonna say there should only be optional lore.
Yeah.
Like you were saying with Arcane, that actually expands and enriches the world building, but they are
That's it.
entirely optional. It's all
It made
that,
it
but it's-
so accessible that you didn't
Yeah.
need to play the game to enjoy the show.
So to conclude, what makes a bad adaptation and what makes a good adaptation?
Bad adaptation, total disrespect towards gamers.
Obvious
fans,
cash grabs.
Obvious cash grab, horrible miscasting, lack of understanding for the source material. Those would be the big things I say.
But the good adaptations.
Good adaptations, respect the source material. Have a cast that match the characters' personas and looks like the characters. Atmospherically matches the video games and tonally matches the video games. Like, for example, Mortal Kombat's fun and light. So you should make a movie that's fun and light, doesn't take itself too seriously.
Unless the source material itself is already serious, like The Last of Us,
Yes.
and it's a mature
Yes,
story,
of
then
course.
of course go with the dark tone.
And have a gripping story with a character that has to go through a journey and learn some life lessons. Like, I mean, The Last of Us is a great example. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe for more videos like it. You could also check out our Mortal Kombat review
Yeah,
or our Alone in the Dark reaction video
there.
or our Mario Brothers review.
Woohoo! Right there. Video game movies have their place. Yeah, just follow the blueprint.
Up, up, down, down, left, right.
Thanks, guys. Bye.